Not that we expected curators to interest themselves in electromagnetic waves. We took no risks and maintained silence on all communication bands, while the curators were on the Nostromo. We waited a few moments while Andrew, now formally a rogue curator himself, reviewed the recording of our interview. "The fact that they are still concerned about this after so many years is not good," he finally said. "Curators tend to either quickly solve problems that bother them or give them up as being pointless diversions. I believe that these two, and probably others, have been working on this problem continuously since they realized that my disappearance and the return of Nemesis's implant were coincident. It probably just took them this long to get around to coming here. I doubt they have any real evidence that you or the Terra Nova operation is involved, because they would have been here much sooner if they did. But the problem is that by human standards they will never stop. This is an existential priority for them, and they can spend tens or hundreds of thousands of years working on it." While he spoke, I poured us shots of moonshine. "How long do you think we have?" Emma asked. "Unknowable. They have probably already tracked down and spoken to everyone who had any interaction with Nemesis at all in the years before her breakdown. They have probably spent a great deal of time retracing her steps on Earth. They may or may not be aware of the agency that helped me kill Nemesis. If they are, the agents can't have divulged much. But I have little doubt the agency is aware of them. Tracking curators who visit Earth is what they do." "So it's just a matter of time?" I asked. Again unknowable. The human agents were very circumspect in all their dealings with me. The most bothersome thing is that the curators went back to Earth when they left you. There are people on Earth who know you have the missing ships, although not why. There are people there who know I was there to assassinate Nemesis. Many of our crew have acquaintances on Earth. We have been recruiting there for years. They already know you and I are long acquainted. There are no clear lines connecting any of those dots, but all of those dots are on Earth, and that makes Earth the linchpin of our real secret. Is there any chance they could track your amplifier? Only if I use it to do something outrageous like moving a planet. Physically, it only exists in this universe as a dimensionless point. Fold-wise, I've been using it as an extra-massive microfold scanner, and that isn't detectable at a distance. What will they do if they return? That strongly depends on what they know or suspect. Suppose they connect all the dots. That would be very bad. They're not stupid. You took the ships and you are here aboard one of them, and we're not maintaining Fold quiet because that wouldn't make sense for a Fold lab. It's unlikely they would find the ships on the moon at random, but things are different if they decide to actively search the system. And once they know about the ships on the moon, they know you would not devote such resources to what you have admitted is a quixotic vanity project on Terra Nova. So they could know everything already? No, because they would already have moved to destroy us if they did. It will take them more than a passing glance to realize what you are really trying to do, and that you might actually succeed. If they had any idea how much you have already accomplished here, they would destroy us all without warning or quarter. How? I would expect at least 4 amplifiers dedicated to folding Terra Nova and its moon into its sun. They would be certain of overwhelming any fold inhibitor your people are capable of deploying. They would do it without warning immediately on arrival in the system, probably from the outer system to confuse our fold detectors as much as possible before we could react. Remember, they have fought a fold war and there are records of it. I think we need to leave, Emma said. I don't think we're ready, I said. We will never be as ready as we want to be. We will also never be ready if Andrew's people come for us, Emma countered. To Andrew, she asked, how soon could they be here? What's the worst-case scenario? If they are in the process of cementing their suspicions, it will take them about a day to reserve and arrange to remove the warlocks on the amplifiers. They will not start that process until they are absolutely certain of what they intend to do, and they wouldn't have visited here if they had already decided. And I don't think they would have gone to Earth if their next priority was to come after us. But Earth is also where all the clues are, and if they do decide we threaten them, there will be no warning. You just got as much as you ever will. We need to fucking leave, Emma said. I tend to agree, Andrew added. Well, I guess I'm outvoted. We were still in the conference room where we had met the curators, so there was a ship comm console. I dialed the executive officer and put it on speaker. XO here. XO, this is King J. I am with Queen Emma. We need immediate private comms with all the captains. This is a code ultraviolet priority. Excuse me, Jay, did you say code ultraviolet? And I meant it, Saul. Working. About 20 seconds passed. Awaiting confirmation. A couple of them have to find privacy. 4, 5, 6, ready. You are connected. Captains, this is King J. And this is Queen Emma, Emma said. All of you, please acknowledge. The comm panel lit up with icons indicating that our communication had been received and understood. "We are immediately initiating plan-breaking pinwheel," I said. "Immediately initiate plan-breaking pinwheel," Emma verified. "The Longshot and Nostromo will remain for 1 hour to collect crew who are not on board. Captain Wiegand will remain available for immediate instruction in case we have to alter that. The rest of you will leave now without pausing to retrieve crew or material. Forward to the Longshot lists of all personnel known to be off-board so we can collect them. Acknowledge." I punched the control to wipe the acknowledge icons and watched them reappear. "Captain Wiegand, stay with me. The rest of you get moving." A few seconds later, only the captains of the Longshot and our own ship Nostromo were still on the comm. "Sir and Madam," Captain Wiegand said, "the lists have come through from the other ships. I have about 30 personnel to retrieve in 8 locations. Send your star shuttle and use its fold drive. Time is the only factor to consider. As soon as you have all those people, or in no more than 1 hour if you should be unable to find any of them, join the others." "Understood," he said. Only the captain of the Nostromo remained on the comlink. Emma, we have at least 300 people out on the surface. We don't even have a comprehensive list because there's no formal checkout from this ship. We need at least a day to find them all." "They will be all right. Terra Nova is a habitable world and they all have transportation, ground infrastructure in place for the necessities of life, and a microfold transceiver if they need to call someone else for rescue. If all goes well, we will be able to come back for them. But we leave in an hour no matter what. Make sure everybody understands that." "It's really that bad?" "We can't be certain, but if you knew how bad it could be, you wouldn't be wasting time asking us." "Got it. Understood." "I hope we're doing the right thing," I said after he left the comm. "You may never know that," Andrew said gently. "Take it from someone who has lived a very long time. But when you do the wrong thing, you often become quite certain of that shortly." I nodded, and we moved to do what we could to assist in the evacuation of Terra Nova. 36 hours later, 6 ships were at rest on the surface of a new world, surrounding a new and empty city recently built by human-designed nanites. Now it was time to do the explaining. The Nostromo's amphitheater was full to overflowing, as were those on the other ships watching us by video. Not everyone could fit in the ship amphitheaters, so others were watching in smaller groups in conference and break rooms. "Crew members of the expedition, welcome to the world we have called Terminus," I began. "We apologize for the abrupt way you were brought here, and for those of us who wish to return to Earth or other places back home, we promise that we will make that possible. Not immediately, but probably within a few weeks. When we have explained ourselves, we think you will all understand. 22 years ago, after a rogue curator tried to kill me and Queen Emma, we went searching for a place where we could be safe. Doing so required us to invent and prove new navigational techniques. The curators regard the Milky Way galaxy as their own garden, and many of them are upset at the things humans have done since we intruded on the order they had so carefully curated. They are tolerating us for now, but the time will likely come when they will remind us that it is their garden, their home, and that they need us to follow their rules which we may not want to follow. Many of you will protest that the Earth is our home and our world, but the curators do not see it that way. They would say that they created the Earth as part of their garden, and as such it is theirs to curate as they see fit. And if we are not their proper children, then we are invasive vermin. Many curators, including the one who tried to kill Emma and myself, already believe that. And we do not know enough about their culture to be sure those who disagree will ultimately prevail. Many of you will say that we should fight for our home, but having been given curator powers ourselves, we can assure you that as things are today, such a conflict would be short and genocidal. The curators will fold Earth and every one of our colonies into their sons before they allow us to effectively resist them, and they have the means to do that despite our fold span limiters and inhibitors. Most of you know our true purpose at Terra Nova came to be to bootstrap our own version of curator technology. Despite the progress we have made, we have far to go. It might one day be possible for us to resist them without being annihilated, but we will then still have to consider whether such a conflict is worthwhile. And meanwhile, should they find out what we are up to, we are certain that they would destroy us as soon as they suspect we might actually succeed. They would destroy us with the same enthusiasm we would feel about rats or cockroaches that we discovered were somehow learning to use our own technology against us. We have accordingly left the Milky Way galaxy. There were gasps from the Nostromo live audience. You might think we would have gone to Andromeda, but it turns out that Andromeda and the Milky Way are falling toward one another, and will begin to merge within 1 billion years or so. Such a time might seem unimaginably remote, but the curators have been active and keeping continuous records of their activities for 7 billion years. They are serially immortal, They live in hosts of every species that can each live for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years with the mortality cure. But they can also transfer their consciousness to new hosts when it suits them. 1 billion years is therefore not an unthinkable span of time. We have made much progress on the mortality cure ourselves, and it seems likely that within our new mortal lifetimes we will perfect serial immortality too. So even if none of us is likely to be here to see Andromeda and the Milky Way merge, it was clear to us that Andromeda wasn't far enough. The Curators might still regard us as a threat if we settled there. Most of the galaxies of the local group are dwarf galaxies, which have low metallicity and are poor prospects for planets and the higher atomic weight building blocks of life and civilization. The next best candidate in the local group is the Triangulum galaxy, but it is gravitationally bound to Andromeda and so likely to also become part of a single big elliptical galaxy along with the other two. So we searched farther afield. Of several possibilities, we settled on Messier 101, commonly called the pinwheel for its appearance in Milky Way-based telescopes. A picture of M101 appeared behind us. It's a large galaxy of 1 trillion stars, much larger than either Andromeda or the Milky Way. We don't particularly need such a large galaxy, but we do need the heavy metals and planets with hot radioactive cores, which seem to be more plentiful here. Since leaving Terra Nova, we have traveled 21 million light-years. We came here a few years ago to drop the nanites which have created Terminus City, and as you can all see, they have done their job. This was all made by our nanites which you designed, so we know there are no curator backdoors or secret secondary functions. When we scouted this galaxy, we found over a dozen worlds which we regard as easily terraformable. None of them is up the standards of a curated world. Terminus, for example, has no stabilizing moon and no native multicellular life. A couple of the others are ice balls, and several have not yet oxygenated their atmospheres. But we have only surveyed a tiny fraction of this giant galaxy. And as we perfect the rest of the Curator's tools for our own use, we may develop a more comprehensive plan for expanding our presence here. We expect to have as much time as we need to make such plans. Some of you might be wondering whether the Curators will follow us. It is unlikely that they will, at least soon, because it took us over 1,000 successive folds to get here. The journey was executed automatically by software that we designed for the purpose, and requiring a ship to sustain us as a human-built fold drive executed the program. The Curators have not used ships of their own for many eons. They are used to folding directly to their destination, or through waypoints that are either habitable or quickly skipped. But there is nothing between the Milky Way and the pinwheel but vacuum and zero-G for many hundreds of times their maximum fold range. Even if they use a ship or repurpose one of the few asteroid stations they use for planetary engineering, they will not be able to follow us through so many successive automated folds. They will not know how to navigate when they get here. And if they somehow come here on their own, they will have no way to find the needle of Terminus in the trillion-sun haystack of the pinwheel. We are confident that we will be safe here, and that this will remain true for some time even once we begin regular shuttle flights back to the Milky Way. Some of you may be wondering about the fate of those we left behind on Earth and its colonies. That we honestly do not know. But we do not believe the Curators know yet of our effort to re-engineer their technology. We left because their worry over the ability of one Curator to kill another had drawn them to us. They were not worried about a threat from us, but their investigation was placing them among people who did know too much of what we are really about here. And we have been assured that if they did learn the truth, they would likely act without hesitation to destroy us all. Leaving was the safest course of action to protect our friends and families as well as ourselves. There are 2,700 of us aboard these 6 ships, and we find ourselves at an empty city designed to accommodate 50,000. You are all invited to explore, and if it suits you, reserve a residence. Those of us who are running research projects are invited to find room for those in some of the warehouse spaces we had the nanites create for that purpose. There are conversations to be had about which projects to leave on ships and which to ground here. We need to clear at least 1 ship of all new research labs so it can begin ferry service back to the Milky Way. You will find Terminus City equipped with the usual data services you expect, although they cannot connect to sources back home because of the distance. And we expect to keep all of the ships here for at least a month. I realize it is customary to take questions at this time, but we are scattered about our ships, and most of the answers are either in what I just said or out there in Terminus City ready to be discovered. We will have an in-person town hall there in 2 days' time. Once again, Emma and I apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused some of you, but please take our word that we would not have taken this extraordinary step without warning if we did not think it was completely necessary. Welcome to Terminus City, the world of Terminus, and Messier 101, the Pinwheel Galaxy. The on-air icon disappeared. The picture of the pinwheel behind us went dark, and the amphitheater lights came up. The mood of the audience was of stunned shock. But then one person stood and applauded, and then a few more, and like a wave it spread, and those who were with us in person gave us a standing ovation. 18 months later, Jay and Emma and our old friend Quentin watched with me as Sophia practiced yoga on the terrace of our home on the outskirts of Terminus City. "Of all the girls on our expedition," Emma said, "I still can't believe you hooked up with the one who has an altar to the seasons and an incense library." Sophia is also a skilled biochemist who realized several of the most critical challenges of the mortality cure. After tens of thousands of years of living as if I was an alien in a human body, she is also helping me navigate the highs and lows and rapids of my human emotions. "And she doesn't have killing people on her resume as a job skill," I added. I chuckled. I had always felt humor, but expressing it still felt like a decision I had to consciously make, rather than allowing it to emerge naturally. Sophia was helping me with that too. Sophia finished her routine and got dressed. She likes to perform her rituals as her parents and grandparents had taught her, sky-clad. She finds it hilarious that nakedness is also the natural state of most intelligent life forms in our old galaxy. "Ready to go moon shopping?" she asked with a quick kiss to my forehead. "If Quentin is," I said. "This should be really interesting," Quentin said. "So tell me again why you need a ship to do this." Well, I wanted to bring Sophia along, and even working alone doing this kind of planetary work in deep space is a lot easier with a habitable platform to work from, even if it's just a shell with no propulsion of its own. The implausible alibi had been refurbished with the latest pinwheel technology, including a fold drive that was a bit smaller than a tennis ball. The nano-assembly team had made a few that were the size of ping-pong balls, but they had only succeeded 4 times out of over 100 tries. They had finally realized that they needed to do something non-nanoscale engineers had learned long ago, and design in the opportunity for quality assurance and rework. This made the final assemblies a bit bulkier, but their yield was now 100% at every scale they had attempted. There was still much work to do to make Curator-style implants, but reliable bulk nano-assembly was no longer a stumbling block. The microfold array people were busy redesigning their prototype designs to take advantage of the new assembly techniques. We piled into the alibi, and Quentin folded us out to the Terminus system's innermost gas giant. 17 moons, Quentin intoned, punching up a display. 2 for the price of 1 if you also buy a ring. Ground rules, besides being not too big for me to move and big enough to stabilize Terminus. We don't want too much surface frozen gases because they will sublimate away at Terminus's distance from the sun. Well, that pretty much excludes the ones that aren't in the intertidal zone because at this distance from the sun, they're all going to have surface temperatures cold enough to freeze air. 3 of the innermost moons weren't so cold because of tidal forces from the giant. 2 of them were too big for me to move. We took note and folded out to the next most outward of the 3 gas planets. "Same shit, different planet," Quentin said. "The smaller inward one is really nice and hot, but it's also radioactive as hell. Reminds me of Jupiter's moon Io back home." "But volcanoes," Sophia said. "Terminus could have a moon with volcanoes, which would gradually die out without the gas planet's tides to need the moon to power them," I said. Sophia jabbed me for being a party pooper, but we moved on. Surprisingly, the outermost gas giant had a world with liquid surface water. It would probably be more proper to think of it as water lava, but much of the surface was liquid, and its atmosphere was not too different from that of any habitable world before the usual oxygenation crisis. "Can you get a mass for it, Andrew?" I let my implant do its thing and said, "About 10 to the 23rd kilograms. Just a little more than Earth's moon." "Can you heft it?" "It'll take about 10 steps from this far out, but I'm thinking this is our candidate." "Sophia?" "Screw volcanoes. Liquid water for the win. I bet the Curators don't have any dual habitable planets." "No, their method pretty much guarantees a sterile moon," I said. "And the liquid water should persist," Quentin said. "Once it's in place around Terminus, it will have the solar flux instead of the gas world's tides to provide surface warmth. The solar wind will eventually blow it all away, but that will take hundreds of millions of years. Meanwhile, the air might be a bit thin, but we could probably make it breathable." "Okay, people." Quentin, check me with your program. I set up some orbital parameters around Terminus and let the ship's computer chew on them. That should give us a month pretty close to Earth's month, but a much brighter night sky with all this high albedo stuff on the surface. Now that gives us 2 possibilities. I need to make about a 22 km per second velocity adjustment before folding it into its final orbit. Supergravity doesn't work at this scale because planets aren't solid, and little tidal variances in the projected graviton field will badly disrupt them. So we're going to have to fold it in place to fall towards something bigger to adjust its velocity. We can do it here, which will only affect this giant's lunar system and will take 4 days, or we can fold it down to the much bigger innermost giant and do it in 2 days. But that will tidily cock up that world's lunar system too. Do it here, Sophia said instantly. We need this world, but we don't need to do any more damage than necessary to the rest of the solar system. I looked at Quentin and he shrugged. Sounds like a good plan to me. I'm not in a big hurry to be anywhere else. Okay then. Sophia, this is going to take me out of my human side for a while. I have to concentrate. If this isn't done right. Of course I understand, she said. Before you start, we should conduct the great rite to consecrate our effort. Well, being in touch with my human side, the suggestion to have ritual sex first was not one I was going to turn down, and Quentin was a good sport and pretended he couldn't hear us on the upper deck, while he did whatever humans do while their friends are having sex in the next room. I will really have to look that up sometime. And then began nearly a week of pretty constant mental implant activity for me. I was able to arrange a data output so they could see on the ship's monitor what my implant and its amplifier were up to. Since the temperature of the worldlet was reasonable, we were actually able to land the alibi on its surface, which helped maximize my range and accuracy. But when you are moving worlds, you check and recheck everything constantly without rest. There is no margin for error, particularly on those last few folds as we approached Terminus, an inhabitable and inhabited world which could meet awesome disaster if I did anything wrong. I did nothing wrong, though, and within a few days Terminus was a habitable world with a stabilizing moon. And having gone back to my roots as a curator for that time, I let Sophia guide me back into human habits while the residents of Terminus weighed in on the new development. Since Terminus had never had tides before, there was a great deal of interest in how its oceans would react to the new sloshing forces. There were minor quakes and tidal tsunamis, and fortunately we had anticipated all that and nobody was harmed. Of course, Jay and Emma hung a medal around my neck and everyone was ready to slap me on the back and order me a drink. But it was Sophia who reminded me of something I hadn't really connected. I wasn't just the only person at the pinwheel with an amplifier able to move a moon. I was also the only being in the entire universe with an amplifier I could reprogram to do something like helping the neurologists out. And that meant that I was more than either a human who was a curator or a curator who was human. I was something else entirely, but just what I might be I wasn't yet sure.